These are stories from my new book, Wild Outside, The Adventures of Survivorman. This story is called Slip Sliding My Way into Hypothermia. When I considered my climb down the hill, I thought, no problem. I've climbed down hundreds of mountains and hills. This will be a walk in the park. I couldn't have been more wrong. There is really only one attitude that gets me in trouble when I'm out in the wilderness, and it always starts the same way. I have a day or an hour or just a moment where I am overconfident. I'm not paying attention. I think nothing can go wrong. This is a very dangerous way to think. I had just spent 4.5 days stuck inside a car. I was bogged down by snow on a deserted mountain road where I was filming my latest episode of Survivorman. That's a miserable place to be. I was cold and hungry. After more than 4 days, my survival supplies that came with the car's emergency kit were running out. Now I had to head downhill toward the ocean fjord where I could find edible wild plants to eat. But I hadn't brought a map. Someone had given me directions before I began filming, and I figured, I'll remember them. Wrong. No problem, I thought again. I'll just make my way down straight through the forest. Big mistake. The mountain was so steep, it felt more like I was climbing downhill than hiking. Think of a tobogganing hill, only steeper. My legs plunged into waist-deep snow with every step. The thick trees made it hard to see the terrain ahead. I was guessing my way down the mountain. It began to snow heavily. Everywhere I looked was a wall of big, fat, white flakes blowing fiercely in the mountain winds. They stung my watering eyes. As I got lower on the mountain and the air warmed up, this fluffy snow turned to wet flakes that stuck to me. Then it turned to freezing rain. My heavy winter coat was soaked right through. I knew that I could encounter these conditions on the mountain, yet I didn't pack a raincoat due to my overconfidence. Now that I was in this situation, staying put and waiting for better weather would have been the smartest thing to do. But I was impatient to get down to the ocean for a better chance at finding food. Impatience is the wrong kind of motivator in a tough situation. After a few hours, my legs were so tired they felt like rubber. People tend to think going uphill is tougher than going downhill, but it's not. Although you might get out of breath faster going uphill, going downhill is harder on your muscles. You have to pay close attention to where you put your feet so you stay balanced and don't fall. I should have prepared better at home by exercising my legs to get them ready for Norway's steep terrain. I started to sweat. I was sweating so much that the clothing close to my skin became as wet as my outer layers. I had to sit down often to rest. I even slid down steep sections of the mountain on my butt. However, this was not a fun day of tobogganing. This was really scary. My pants were getting torn to shreds. As the sunlight began to fade, I thought it couldn't get any worse. But it did. I slid to a stop above cliffs covered in ice. Behind me was a steep, wet, snow-covered trail. I'd never be able to climb back up. I was about to get trapped on the side of a mountain. There was only one thing I could do while there was still daylight. I could stop, rest, and seriously think about the danger I was in. That's right. Thinking is actually something you can do. I concentrated hard on my options. I might not have prepared well for this adventure, but I could take a moment now to prepare for the rest of my journey down to the fjord. My overconfidence had evaporated somewhere on the side of a mountain. No more impatience for me. My humility, my better sense, had finally made me sit down and take my time to figure out what to do. I knew I couldn't spend the night in this rain and snow because I would slip into hypothermia. That's what happens when your body can't keep itself warm anymore. It can be very dangerous. Eventually, getting that cold can kill you. Feeling very embarrassed, even though no one was there to make fun of me, I sat on my butt and I made my way inch by inch, yard by yard, toward the green fjords. The mountain had beaten me. So I showed it my respect by slowing myself down and humbly sliding to the bottom on my butt. I did finally make it to the fjord, just as it got dark. I made a shelter not too far from the ocean. The misty bays and the dark, wet pines lifted my spirits. In the morning, I found a better shelter, where I made a warm fire and dried out. Once I was warm and dry again, I could gather the food that had brought me down the slippery slope in the first place. And that's the end of my first story for you. Now, a couple things you can maybe look up, maybe tomorrow after you have a good night's sleep. What is a fjord? Where is Norway? It's a beautiful place to go. All right, get some sleep and dream about adventuring.